This episode is proudly supported by Pepe Sayer Australian Cultured Butter, batch churned from single origin cream.
We've got a culturing process, a fermenting process, an aging process. So the butter will taste very different than, I guess, the average supermarket butter. I like to say we make butter makers butter. Like, this is the sort of butter makers would like to eat, simply because of the slow process in which we ferment and age and get the flavour into it. You know, the natural fermentation that gets all the flavours into the cream, and then once you churn it, you end up with this really rich, flavoursome butter that evolves and changes because it's a live culture that's in the butter as well.
For more information, go to pepesayer.com.au.
Because restaurant, at the end of the day, they're big house. It's like a big house where you can invite in so many friends every night for dinner or for a drink. It's literally the reflection of yourself. And that's what I like to do. Is like a big, in a way, it's like a big party every day.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. We've spoken to many operators who have shared a moment in time, a place, a movement that swept them off their feet and into a career in hospitality. But how do you find that light bulb moment, and how do you encapsulate it moving forward as you build your own career? Flavio Carnevale is the owner of Marta in Rushcutters Bay, Sydney. Flavio, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You've had a couple of restaurants in Sydney, one that honoured the cuisine of Basilicata, where you were from, and then one of Rome, where you really lunged into hospitality. What was it about your time in Rome that really lit a fire for you for hospitality?
I guess it was the realization of everything that I learned, or everything that I didn't know I was learning when I was a child, was coming to fruition. I was thinking a little while ago that when I was a kid, my uncle and my grandmothers, everyone would take me to the farm. My grandfather introduced me to Auntie Rabbit or Auntie, and my grandmother to cook, and it was just like a normal part of life. And I just never thought really that, somehow, sometimes I didn't want to go, but I went. And then when I went to Rome and I got into the baking or into hospitality in restaurants and dailies, all that things that I was doing when I was a kid, they just came back like, oh, I know this. I've done that. I learned that. It's like, you don't want it, but in reality, you know exactly what's going on because it's been part of your life since you were born.
Take us back to when you were young. Do you have some stories of those times in Basilicata and some of the feasts that you have that you remember?
Yeah. One of the funniest thing was when my grandfather, he was a professional hunter. He also was a farmer. He had like many cattle, and him and my uncle, they were having getting dogs ready for the hunt, and they were breeding dogs for other people. They used to take me for hunting with them, but they were just very, for them it was normal. So we were hunting wild boar, and they put me on a tree and say, you stay here, don't worry about it, you just stay here, never go down. I could never understand when I was that little what they were trying to do. But then they were holding one board, and then when I see the boards up and down and they were carrying it, I say, you put me up there with, hunting a board. I'm thinking, if I knew that, I would be so scared. Now I'm thinking back, I would never do that. But it was just like a normal part. And then the feast that was coming after that, it was always the best bit because, you will go back, do everything, get the skin off, do the animal, and then the next day you're basically covered and basically for 2 days, my grandma and my mother will just, making, grill or ragu out of it. And it was just like a process. It was a very, again, normal, but if you think about back now, it's something that was very unique, put it this way.
Italian food is so varied all over Italy. And tell us about the cuisine of the region that you grew up in.
It's particularly where I grew up. Is on the middle of Campania and Puglia. So basically, I grew up in a region that has got a lot of influence from, from the left and the right, from the Adriatic Sea and the Tyrrhenian Sea. So the particular place where I come from, called Rapone, is a small little village, literally about 20k each side from the other two regions. Has a lot of influence from one and the other. So quite often when I talk to people from one and the other sides, we're talking about culinary experience and tradition, we quite often find the same dessert or the same pastas. And particularly when I moved to Rome, I found out one of the first places I worked at was an Amalfi Coast restaurant. And in this place, I do find we, share a lot of things with these guys that we were doing, that they were doing. And I said, but I'm from here, why are we doing that? And then, with the time that I grew up, I find more similarity. Like example, there's a classic dessert we do for Christmas called chickpea. Is a chickpea raviolo. It's been fried and it's filled by chickpea and chocolate and spices. Now, towards Campania, you find that either made with chickpeas or even made with chestnut. And they're quite often made in a different shape, but the idea is pretty much the same. Or the polenta, or things called the farnata, is basically like a deep polenta bread that's been baked under the ashes, and it's got inside sultanas and a lot of pork lard that's used to use as a mixer to make the polenta nice and crispy. And again, I find that going to talking to some people from Puglia or talking to some people from Campania. Very unique style of food, very designed to the way to don't waste anything. I mean, Italian cuisine and most of Italian cuisine, they're very, it comes from a very poor background. So, we used to recycle everything, or, use every single part of the animal or every bit from what the land will give us and cook something or make something. Definitely Basilicata, it'd be one of the poorest region in the south. They were very mastering all that. But the food that would come out of it just delicious. It has forged me. Like even now, I'm just. I think some of the best things I ever created or ever made come from maybe a mistake or maybe something that we wanted to remake in something, and just then the ingenuity that you put in that particular things, it just comes out sometimes, most of the time, something delicious.
What led to the move to Rome and immersing yourself in the hospitality sector there?
So I always had this desire of become an artist. So I always started in Italy. When you go to high school, you can decide what kind of path you like to have, like, an artistic one or different scientist or different kind of a way. So I wanted to be an artist. So I studied architecture, music. I learned to paint, to sculpture and all that. So I wanted to become a screen designer. So I moved to Rome. But I wanted to also, I had to maintain myself. So I had to find a little work in a bakery in a daily first, which gave me a lot of basis in a way, because I learned to bake. I learned to all the art of cheeses, how to cut it, and how to debone a prosciutto, and all different kind of style. And then I moved to hospitality through a friend. They were looking for a runner in this restaurant, and I wanted to change and work at night because I needed more time to study during the day. So when I moved to this place, the first restaurant I ever worked in Rome, it was run by the guy that owned Bar della Pace. It was a very famous restaurant bar in Rome where all the stars will go. It was always full of somebody was there. And so basically, I moved to this restaurant knowing very little of how to actually serve people and do all that. But the experience, the vitality of a Roman hospitality was a very embracing. So it became like a very addictive. So, you wanted to work every day, you wanted to be there, you wanted to learn, you wanted to see people. It got me into it. Become that bug that people say, the hospitality bug, the service. That's basically what it got me. That to the point that I stopped studying and I said, that's what I want to do. I want to be part of this world.
How different is the hospitality industry in Rome compared to Sydney, where you are now?
It is very different. I think Sydney, I think Australia in the past 20 years has completely changed and in a way got ahead of the game compared to even Europe in some respects. There's definitely more attention to detail. There's a lot more. We're more competitive. We are more looking at what they're doing overseas, and we're always trying to embrace and to make it better. Where I find sometimes, not everywhere, but some places overseas, because they have the history of it, and they got the school and all that, they become a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more too stiff on how the service should be done and what you need to do. Instead, here, I think we're looking more customers, more like what they need, what they like. How can we make them happy without be not true of ourselves, but become a lot more accommodating. That's what really true hospitality is, making people that come to you feel comfortable without really have to tell them what to do.
How did you end up making the move to Australia?
I met my cousins after many years back to Rome when I was in Rome, and we kind of one of those really good fun Aussie night. A lot of whiskey and a lot of and finish the next morning. And so after many years, my cousin said, "Look, what do you want to learn English? Why don't you come and visit us?" And I said, "Well, that's a kind of life you guys have. I think I like it. I may come and see you." So then I came in October 2001, the end of October 2001, and pretty much never left. I, fell in love with Sydney. I thought it was the best place to live. I was always a dream. I always loved, going to the beach or be somewhere close to water. And Rome was definitely not that. But Sydney was the combination of a great big city with a lot of water surrounded. So I thought that was, the best place on earth. And with these, the food, the hospitality, the restaurants have completely evolved. There's been a period, probably in the last 15 years, that when the restaurant in Sydney, they completely flagged. There was a switch that happened in 15 years ago. It went from an okay restaurant situation to something completely, same as you could be in New York, you can be in any other city in the world. They got nothing to be less than all these big international city, because the quality of the food just went up a notch overnight.
What did you think of Italian restaurants in Sydney and Australia when you first landed here? Were they quite different to what you were used to?
It was like being in Rome in all these tourist restaurants. We would never go, and it was just like 1,000 of those. It was a nightmare. You could not go to a restaurant and have a coffee that was decent, even call a coffee. I remember working in places where they were boiling pasta and cooking it from already cooked, like it was not even pre-cooked for a little bit to kind of it was literally cooked, and they were like, it was so disgusting. I could not seriously thinking to eat out to an Italian restaurant. I think I went to more Japanese and Thai restaurant than I've ever been in my life. That was until I went to work at Fratelli Paradiso, and then I say, okay, there's someone that cooks Italian properly here. I can finally have some proper Italian food, except for my auntie. But it was very, very poorly done, and it was done by by people that were doing it just for the money. Really, they had no really restaurant background, or it was embarrassing. Everyone who were coming from Italy said, "Oh gosh, no, we're not going to go to have Italian. We're going to go to something else." Same as pizza, but now you can find a good Italian restaurant is much, much easier than before.
A part of that evolution that you spoke of in the last 15 years has been a real focus on regional Italian, not just Italian restaurants, but specific to different regions of Italy. What's it been like being part of that movement in Australia?
That probably comes from the back of what we were talking before. Everyone was trying to do a menu that was pleasing everyone and everything on the menu from everywhere in Italy. And so it was like when you go to Italy, you don't if you go to Rome, you eat Roman. If you go to Milan, you eat, food from Milan. You don't have everything on the menu from everywhere, because that's just not the way we do. And like me, many others, or a few others, they thought about the same thing. And so the importance of bringing the regional cuisine to Australia to show, if you're going on holiday in Sicily, you're not going to eat polenta. And so basically that dream came true when I founded Popolo 10 years ago. It was the idea of bringing the food of Basilicata and, the south of Italy in generally to Australia, to get to people to see what is different. And what really surprised me the most was that I thought there was things that people never saw or would never knew. I was wrong. The actual customers that came to my door were people that were actually traveling. The people that were going to Puglia, the people that were going to Campania, to Sicily on holiday. And they were coming back and I said, "Oh, that's what we had. We know this dish. We had this. We know that." And it was it was a revelation. Say, yes, we can do this. We can give people things that they never thought they want to have. And I remember having, friends, restaurateurs, or other people say, "Do you give that?" Or some Italian, they've been here for a long time. "Do you give this to your customers?" I say, "Yes, I do." Do they eat it? I say, "Yes, they do." And they do, because they went in Italy, they tasted, they looked at, they saw how the Italian eat it, and they appreciate it. And it was incredible. I remember doing a couple of these regional nights, and we done it for the first 2 or 3 years. I remember the first year we had to extend these regional nights for 3 weeks on the road, because they were just become so popular we couldn't fit any more people in. And people were coming back. I just came back from Puglia yesterday. Mostly were done in winter, our winter. And people say, "Oh, we just came back from Puglia last week. We had to come back and try this dish again because we had it over there." There was a moment that I said, "Okay, Australian, they're ready to try not just the bolognese. They've been serving every menu for the last 30 years, but they're ready to venture to what really Italian food is."
Take us back to the first couple of years of Popolo when you were bringing your vision to light. Were there a couple of dishes that sort of epitomised sort of what the restaurant was doing at that time?
Definitely. One was probably the fregola, so the Sardinian pasta that looks like something between a couscous, but we used to cook it as a risotto. So that was definitely one of the most popular dishes. I remember doing a taste of Sydney once, and we did done it with a baby pork ragu. We cooked. I think my sous chef at the time told me that he never deboned so many pork in his life. He say, I think we done about 20 animals for the 4 days festival. It was like something crazy. People will love it. Another dish that probably went very well was the fried seaweed, which is a typical dish from Naples. There's like you do like a little butter, like you would do like with fish and chips, and you put a seaweed on the middle. There was again, seems like almost a Japanese dish, but it was very, very, very popular. And then any seafood. I mean, the seafood was a big part of the menu popular. So that with the dessert, probably the other one we've done for a long time was the Delizia Limone, the lemon shaped cake filled with limoncello and lemon custard.
Popolo was very popular with the industry and so many customers as well. But you made the decision to change it to Marta and head down the direction of Roman cuisine. Tell us about that period of time and why you made that change.
Back at the time, I felt like we kind of, in a way, reached a point that we needed to shake things up, and we were trying to move Popolo into the city and reopen. And so, because we wanted to give a bit more of not a fine dining, but a little step up for what we were doing. And so we said, okay, moving to the location in the city would be a good way to do it. And then bringing a more casual kind of restaurant into Rashkaras Bay. So the city never happened, unfortunately. And so that project's been left there waiting to find the right spot. But then Marta came along. We felt that the neighborhood was changed a little bit, and we felt that there was a lot more a younger crowd. That because in the first 5 years there was a more apartment built all around us, and a different crowd filled those apartments. And there was a younger generation. There was a more of a casual style of foods. And so I always had this idea, this love of creating my time in Rome, do a restaurant that was celebrating my 10 years of living in Rome. And I thought that was the perfect, Marta was the location was the perfect spot to recreate this Roman piazza. And so that's why I decided to say, look, Rome is the place where I'd love to bring people to the next journey. And then no one really was doing Roman cuisine, and no one really has done much of Roman cuisine in Australia. I remember when we were doing the menu and bringing all things, and say doing cacio e pepe, which has been so now to many menus. But back then, 5 years ago, I was the first one to really put it on the menu, say that's our dish, that's how we do it. We're going to set it on the table. We're going to mix it in front of customers. And Rome is we say in Italy, Rome is bringing over people from all over Italy. It's got this power of joining people in a very strange way. And so to me, Rome in Sydney was that things of bringing community and bringing this different level of people and customers all at once. I remember in Rome, you can go to any trattoria and you will sitting next to a politician, but the next time you have next door, you'll have a painter that was just in his lunch break having a plate of pasta. So that was the idea when I created Marta, to have that convivius of all many different kind of people all at once, more joyful kind of settings.
Marta is a beautiful embodiment of your vision of hospitality and capturing the essence of Rome. Why do you think it's been so successful as a restaurant?
I think is that they're really casual but not casual. I think it's like when I was saying to you before, like, you can go there and have a pizza and a beer and go home, but come back the next night with your with your family and have a feast, and be, stay there for long and have a long dinner, but it was always these things of trying to create these neighborhood place that you can pop in anytime you want for a coffee, but then you can come back for something a bit more serious if you want to. We had people in the past, having their engagement there because they proposed to that's where they proposed, and then years later having taking your restaurant for their wedding. We got, all these little stories from people. They come every day, they, come and get their coffee and their croissant now, but then they come back, they want to bring their mum for dinner. I think is that attachment to something that they think they're part of it and they can go every day. And this love that's basically come true from the years since the last 2 years with COVID when we opened the bakery has been an enormous show from people. Like, when COVID hit, I decided to open the bakery. Few people around me were saying, "Oh, my business partner said to me, 'Oh, you sure what are you going to do? How are you going to open a bakery?' I say, 'Don't worry, I'm going to put it together. All the recipe that I've done in past years from Popolo and Marta, going to get all my old recipe from when I was in Rome, and I'm going to open a bakery, and we'll be fine. If we make a little bit of money to pay the wages, and because I was trying to keep all my stuff with me and don't let it go, so we'll be fine.' And I remember it was in the beginning, it was just me and my and the guy that makes the ice cream for me. So the two of us. I was serving, he was making coffee. There was two guys in the kitchen cooking. By the time I finished the bake and I come up on the front, I remember looking at midday, there was nothing left. The first day, it was literally everything sold out. And I said, okay, these things that could work. And then obviously evolved in something that is completely own business on its own. But the love the people they show us in that time, and they're still showing us now, is just something when I say come from nowhere, is like I was not expecting just people, people, they like you, but when they literally, every second person that comes to the counter tells you thank you for doing that. Thank you for, that's the highlight of our weekend during COVID. That was the last time, we stay home all week and then we come out here on the weekend to buy the treat. Is like, that's the best thing. And it just like it filled my heart with joy because, that's what I always wanted to do. That was the idea of Marta, and the bakery kind of put it together, the restaurant with not. And so now, you can see when, I put a post the other day, we're going to be just going on holiday for 2 weeks, and the amount of comments and people say, it was just like so, make you feel so good, even if it's like, the situation last year has been really, dramatic, tragic or whatever, but it gives you it gives you to keep going. So yes, I can do that because, I know that there's an audience that just really likes what you do.
The business is forced to change during this time in the last 2 years with COVID and the real success with the bakery side of things. But what sort of impact has it had on you? Has it changed your views of what you want to do in hospitality and the way you see your future?
Yeah, a little bit, definitely. Definitely has definitely given me a different perspective of how business, balance of life, also how I see restaurants going for it, but also I rediscovered a passion on baking that has given me definitely given me another strength. Be there at 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. in the morning. You by yourself. You just you do, you create, you think, but you got that excitement. It's like having another life into your own life. It's definitely, made me think that there is a little bit more to a restaurant than just a restaurant itself. Definitely it's brought me to think about the idea of opening a bakery one day. I really love it. I enjoy it so much. I enjoy the relationship with the customer, which is very different from when they're sitting at the table. And I like the fact there is a mix of bit of both. So you have you're having a break from serving on the table, but you're having a break from serving on the counter. The counter, you have a bit more of a quick chit chat, and you build your relationship with people over many chit chat, and then it becomes your regulars. And the restaurant you kind of sometimes get to know someone a lot more, since because obviously they're with you for an hour or more, so you have more opportunity to talk. So definitely the diversify of a business itself in one business is definitely something that, as COVID and the whole situation has teach me.
There's still challenges, and particularly staff shortages and challenges associated with that at the moment. But how are you feeling about the year ahead? Are you optimistic about moving forward in 2022?
I have to. I think there is no hope. I have to be optimistic. I have to think that in 2022 things will settle and we will find able to fund people a little bit easier and to put ourselves back on track like we were 2 years ago. So we need. Hopefully, people will start arriving from Italy or from Europe, because we do need people that come from overseas to fill the shortage. We definitely don't have all these workers in Australia, and we do need people to help us. We all are in need. The last 2-3 weeks of the end of December, the beginning of January, they've been probably the toughest one. Not even during COVID, I felt so hard to open and to go through. The bakery was the only thing that functioned with no problem, because the model is very, very simple in a way. So it's like it can function with 4 people instead of restaurants. It can't function with 4 people, two of the back house and 2 of the front house. It's just not. You can't manage that. But I am confident. I think people will start be back to Australia. I think by, hopefully by May, June this year, we'll be back to a normal life, and hopefully Australia will attract more European. That's they're the one that obviously enjoy the hospitality work more than any others, and we'll be back on track. But there's always a but, and there's always I'm thinking every day, what could be the next thing that I can do if this is not the case? Well, how can we make it work, basically?
You're not one to seek the limelight, and yet Marta is one of the most popular restaurants and Italian experiences in Sydney. What is it that you love about what you do?
Oh, I think with ease, I looked back when I was young, and what I like is the fact that I'm basically able to bring back my whole life experience into what I do, into restaurants. So from cooking, designing the restaurants, drinking the wine, everything. I think is a journey that you bring back in, and I think that journey of your life is in restaurant, because restaurant at the end of the day, they're big house. It's like a big house where you invite in so many friends every night for dinner or for a drink. It's literally the reflection of yourself, and that's what I like to do. It's like in a way, it's like a big party every day, and that's what it really motivates me, because when someone comes for dinner and I cook dinner for them, I got frenetic in a way, you try to push yourself to give them good time, give them good food, you got your pride in all that. And when people come to the restaurant, it's the same thing. The only difference, you don't know them. But it's the same pressure if you would know them. You want to give them good time, you want to give them good food, you want to make them happy. They're having a date with someone, they're taking their family, they just want to be there, relax, enjoy, and think, wow, okay, there was a really good dinner last night. We must go back. That's basically what it pushes me. the idea of that big house party that people come to you for dinner and they just feel happy, and that's really my biggest motivation, to be honest.
Well, as someone that's experienced the joy of the offering that you have, hats off to you with what you do. It's absolutely extraordinary, and we've loved having you on Deep in the Weeds today to hear a bit of your story. Please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. That was very nice of you to have me in, and we'll hopefully chat soon. Ciao, Antonio.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.